does she work full-time during those times, or she still
No,
works the same
what we
hours?
try to do is we try to cobble together, Jackie providing additional hours, or we have a senior that comes in and provides
There's
additional hours.
many times a senior sitting in that
Okay.
office.
So we don't do an exact replacement, one-for-one replacement, and there are times, sometimes we don't have any replacement at all. With regard to the administration budget, I just want to take you through a couple of things that we've tried to do here. The first thing is there's no change in the number of personnel or hours involved. One of the things that is not shown here is from Saturday's budget meeting, the board asked that the cost of the E911 or the code red be budgeted in here. It's $10,700. It's not reflected in the version that you have tonight. But as you go forward and we update these things, Liz gave me a new budget this evening, we'll post that on the Dropbox. We're gonna delete the old version that's on the Dropbox. We'll give you paper copies for your binders. And what we'll try to do is update the budget on a weekly basis. So once a week, we'll take we'll probably have 2 budgets in there for a while. What we'd like to do is have only the current budget in there. as we
The
go
current
forward.
budget will be the complete budget,
Correct. The goal is to update the complete budget.
and the people with paper will just get the updated page.
Right.
Would it be too much to ask if we had a little formatting change at this point?
Go
Just a
ahead.
small one?
Sure.
Is there a way we could put a variance column in there between FY '12 and FY '13 to show the variance on
So you
every
wanna
one of
see
them?
the difference?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It'd be, it would just be super helpful, just to see that.
Just electronically?
Yeah, just electronically.
Okay,
I don't need it in my paper.
okay.
No,
Mhm.
it would just be great, and, because then it just kind of helps you see
Mhm.
very quickly where
The
we have the
number.
percentage of
Mhm.
change.
It's
From one
easy
year
to
to
be
the
done electronically.
Yeah,
To
I figured.
reprint, it would be not
No,
cost effective.
I would not ask for a paper, no. Are you okay with that? I don't want to do something, are you okay, Bob, me asking that?
Elizabeth's the one that's gonna have to do the work. It's probably not too major.
No, that's fine.
Leave it up to her.
Mhm.
The easiest thing for us is posting the things in the Dropbox.
No, yeah, I don't want to,
It takes us about 30 seconds to do it.
Mhm.
this is all the paper I wanted.
No,
This
but
is good.
she's gotta put in another column and
Right.
make sure it all tracks
Well,
through,
we could
so.
probably delete one of the columns, right? I mean, do we need
Well,
all of them?
that's
No,
not
we
the
like to show
problem.
the-
The problem
The
is
finance
that,
committee will object if we start deleting history. I think when we came here, we've had much more history than we've shown now.
Well, if it causes a
No,
problem, then don't do it, but
no.
it would just be really helpful.
That's easy enough.
I don't have to sit there with my calculator all the time.
And so the latest versions will have the date on it of when, when Greg puts it into Dropbox, so you all know what you're working with.
thank you, some of us can still calculate in our head.
Oh, really, Bob? Okay, well, let's go to page 52. I want you to do this calculation.
If you have your calculators handy, I can save you $600, because if you look at the salary detail, I don't receive longevity, but you'll see that I'm budgeted for longevity, so we can eliminate that. That is gone, so that could save you first dollars right there. But the other thing that we hope to accomplish this year under the purchase of services is we do need to complete the assessment center for the fire chief position. And you'll remember 4 years ago, we went through this identical process for both police chief and fire chief. And at that time, it cost $10,000 per assessment center to be run. Fortunately, the Human Resources Division, which is the state agency that administers civil service, was able to run an assessment center for the police chief position. And it turned out quite well, because we got a great list of candidates, but we also didn't cost us anything. Unfortunately, that option does not avail itself for fire chiefs. Sorry to say that we have to go through the in-house system, which works quite well. We'll do it here. It'll be a sole source assessment center. We will have to hire a consultant. A consultant will come in, and they will bring in their staff. Chief, I don't know if did you go through this the last time through? You guys both went through, similar to how it was run in the past. And the Human Resources Division actually has a person that comes out and makes sure they sit there, watch, and make sure that everything's done in accordance with what their standards are.
You have a timeframe when you want to initiate that process, get that going?
July 1. July 1, that's the goal.
And what happens, the deputy is treated differently?
A deputy position actually goes out for an examination, so there's actually a written examination that's done for the deputy's position.
Nothing has to be budgeted for.
No, no. And there are a number of,
Is that position eligible for an assessment center,
potentially it is,
the deputies?
potentially it is. There are a number of positions, just to speak a little bit, that we do have vacancies that do need to be filled on a permanent basis. So it would be the fire chief, the deputy fire chief. Those are examinations that we have to undertake. But in the police department side, we have a lieutenant and we have sergeant's positions that also have to be done through examination process. And it's a written examination.
Sticking with the deputy chief, you say examination. Is an examination we call for, how does that work?
We call for the examination. It's administered by the state, and Chief and Deputy Chief Galvin, correct me if I misspeak at all, because you guys are a little bit closer to the process. They call for an examination, so everyone in the state that either wishes to have say, deputy chief examination all assembles, and the test is administered, written test is administered through HRD, and then we call for a civil service list, and we receive a list with the names and the ranking of the candidates. And then we proceed with the local.
And they do this test once a year, right?
Test is this month,
It's in 2 weeks.
2 weeks for the deputies.
Deputy test is in 2
Yep,
weeks?
2 weeks.
We get the results, what, August?
It's a little faster.
Results are June, this is probably August.
And on the police department side, the sergeant's exam is in October? October. So these things, as much as we want to fill them as quickly as possible, we're a little bit stuck with the time, with the state, how quickly the state administers.
Do you know why the state basically ran an assessment center for police chief, and why they're not doing it for fire? Anybody there? Yeah.
It's where they started the program, so I think eventually it will,
Okay, so this was the first time that they had done it on their own.
it's been about 4 years.
So Greg, you said 1 July, just in regards to the fire chief. So what does it take roughly from there? Is it 30 days? Is it 90 days? What is it? To get it all done?
It's interesting, when you go through the assessment center, you still end up with a list. So what comes from that assessment center is the consultant puts together I'm an observer in the assessment center, but I don't participate in it. But I'm able to observe. The consultant puts together a list, ranking the candidates. That list then gets submitted to the Human Resources Division, who certifies it at their leisure, at their schedule, not our schedule, their schedule. We then call for the list and we make an appointment process. How quick is the processing? The last time around, it took about 90 days from start to finish. I'm just, again, highlighting some of the things that we have in the budget. The fuel has been transferred to the DPW account in the amount of $4,800. And I'd like to try to end these discussions on a good note, that we did budget an amount of money to support the annual employee cookout, which is held in the summer for employees under the board. It's shown as employee recognition, but the intent of it is to support the efforts of that program, which I think is tremendously successful, and the board should be commended for their efforts in that.
How is your fuel tracking this year? Do we know?
Mine?
Yeah.
Right on target. Right on target.
Then what about the maintenance? Is that in here? It's for your car? Because we never had that before.
Yes. So if I have oil changes or tires or whatever, that comes out of this budget.
So it's in here? It's
Yes.
in the,
Yes, it's in here.
And then the last thing I had was, we talked about this recognition program.
Yes.
Is there anything that's gonna be funded for that? Plaques, things that you were gonna,
Oh, if I do it, I'll worry about it. In other words, if, I know that from the last discussion was that we would wanna recognize employees in some way.
Right.
I haven't put that in the budget, but it doesn't mean that we won't do something.
Okay.
It
I just
was-
don't want it to get lost.
I'd rather do it on my own, to be honest with you, than have it come through the budget process.
Just in relation to repairs and maintenance, the vehicle's a new thing.
Yeah.
So shouldn't that be up,
Right. That's why,
you know, as
that's why I
opposed
asked
to,
the question.
from where you actually expended the previous year, and so that probably should be modified.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point, and what I'll do is I'll sit down with Liz and we'll review some of the data that's been incurred to date on that. and may need to come back with some additional
And
revisions.
it's gonna be another year older and,
Right,
you know, that sort of thing, so.
And new tires and brakes.
I don't use my brakes.
Any questions? Any other questions? Any
Thank
other
you.
thing on this, Greg?
No, thank you very much for your time, and again, thank you for your support, I really appreciate it.
Okay, I think we have one more budget this evening.
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement, sitting in the back corner,
You know,
patiently waiting for us.
gonna follow the town administrator. This is tough. I oversee two budgets, the zoning board of appeals and code enforcement. The zoning board of appeals, nothing's changed. The expenses have actually gone down $14. And that's all salary. That's a part-time secretary. She works 16 hours a week. So that's a pretty simple budget. Now, you want the good news or the bad news?
Just,
With
what
the
about
code enforcement.
the workload, though, the caseload on the zoning board of appeals?
It's been less, I mean, we're, you know, I'd probably say like 4 months, we do 2 meetings a month, but basically it's been gone down to 1 meeting a month. I mean, I would love to keep it at 1 meeting a month, because the expenses just keep going down and there's not a lot of money, so. That will all depend on the home occupations, that's the biggest thing. That people come in, everybody's still trying to work at home, you know, with a home office, and they gotta go through the zoning.
Is that picked up?
That's been steady. You know, they'll try it, they usually don't discontinue it, you know, once they get it, it just stays, it's good for 4 years. So we never know if their business takes off or not, once they, you know, 4 years if they come back. Building department, good news, bad news. The fiscal 12, the 8 months of fiscal 12, the permits are up 13%. Bad news is the fees coming in are down like 7%. Obviously, that's based on the size of the project. If we don't have, you know, that time we had Milton Cat, we had some new buildings coming in. Right now, there's nothing coming in. 28 is slow. The Stop and Shop is still empty, so there's no big permits coming in. A lot of additions. You know, people kind of worked right through the winter because the weather wasn't too bad. So the smaller projects, but as far as anything huge coming in on 28, there's just nothing there. A lot of empty buildings. The increase in my budget is very small. What I'm looking for is just fuel. You discussed that earlier. I heard a report today that gas has gone up 50 cents since January 1st. So it's almost gone up a penny a day. My part-time inspectors, basically right now, they're getting 12 gallons a week. That doesn't take them too far. So I put in for a little increase. I'm trying to get them up to 15 gallons a week. But every time the gas goes up, you know, they take a cut in pay. So that's the biggest expense that's gone up. Everything else has stayed the same. The salaries are all negotiated. Like Greg said, all the contracts are done, so. That's basically it. Do you have any questions?
Jim, is fuel in your department, it's categorized as travel? Is that what that is?
It's
Is that what
under
it is?
Travel
yeah.
expense, yeah.
It's basically a monthly stipend that they get for maintenance and fuel and everything else on their private vehicle.
So, you're reflecting on what's going on this year. This is the fiscal 2013 budget. You think about potential out there.
There's a lot of potential.
There's a
out there.
lot, but very slow turning.
Right, I mean, if the economy starts to pick up, it seems like it goes, again, with the fuel, you know, as the cost goes up, you know, then kind of, people just stop spending. So the empty places, you know, I mean, we've got the Piccadilly pub closed, you know, I don't know if another restaurant's gonna come in there, you know, they're just afraid to spend money. Stop and Shop, nothing has come in, that building's still empty. Post office, that's the one good news, that they're not closing this post office, and they're bringing employees to town. Hopefully, by doing that, and